Nope, that's not clickbait. I beat Civ 7's Modern Age and went to space in 9 turns, which historically puts us in the year 1766. What else happened in 1766, you might ask? Well, the British Parliament repealed the Stamp Act after protests in America. Sweden passed the world's first freedom of the press law, which aimed to abolish censorship and guarantee freedom of expression. And of course, Meiji Japan launched the first crewed spaceflight. Yeah, dude, the famous crewed spaceflight of 1774. So join me on this journey as I showcase our path to the ultimate Civ 7 science run, powered entirely by the prayers of Taoist monks. As with all good games of Civ, it began with one thing and one thing only: re-rolling the start. My first attempt at this challenge was with Himiko, Queen of War, for her ability to support endeavours for free, ensuring that you can keep peace with your neighbours and not have to worry about diverting production and gold to maintain a military. In the late game, Queen of War also gives a massive 25% bonus to science when you have an ally and run the Friend of Way endeavour. My pathway for this game was Maya, Abbasid, Qajar. Now, the Qajar, as it turns out, are pretty great, but they only really start to provide value and help shave off a few turns when you get to the very last project of the Science Victory, because you can trade away your entire empire in a peace deal to give your capital a ludicrous amount of production. Or at least, it's a lot of production for a more or less normal game of Civ 7. We finished our first run on a respectable turn 33 of the Modern Age, but we were still thinking within the box. I was ending the age with a measly 14 out of 22 settlements in exploration, well short of my cap. It was time to think bigger. It was time to think Pachacuti. For my second run, we picked Pachacuti and started out as the Maya as per usual. After all, who could possibly be better than the Maya for this challenge? Spoiler alert, it's not who you'd expect. And naturally, because we picked Pachacuti, who has a bias towards mountains, and Maya, who has a bias towards tropical terrain, we spawned in the barren tundra with no mountains around. Naturally. So let's pretend that never happened and try again. Now, if we're talking good science starts, what do we really want? That's right, lots of resources clustered up for big adjacencies on my science buildings. And, well, look at this insane start. Right next to a huge cluster of mountains and with a +3 science spot right next to my capital. Now, all I have to do is remember to not put an ageless building there. And we can even take this out. Get the rubies as well. What a fantastic start. We want to get this down. Oh my god. Oh. Moving on from that decision that definitely won't haunt me for the rest of the game, our neighbours on this continent are Green Xerxes' Persia and Ada Lovelace's Rome. 2 war civs, and I'm smack bang in the middle of them. I'm sure this won't be a problem as Maya, a civ that decidedly wants to just do its own thing. Not very good at war, just a nice peaceful SimCity experience on this lovely continent. No subtle foreshadowing at all there. Now, unrelated to this, I forward settled both of them because as it turns out I had not 1 but 3 natural wonders around me, which was nice. Now granted, they were some of the weaker ones, but still. Turns out my neighbours wanted those, and so war was upon us. And it turns out they were in an alliance, so I've got to contend with both of them at the same time. Now if you didn't know, as soon as the AI unlocks ancient walls at Masonry on Deity, they instantly build walls on every single district in their empire. And so when I see that I'm going to have to punch through like 8 ancient walls while getting pelted by archers and immortals, it's just not happening. I'm not dealing with all that. Luckily, Ada was not quite as savvy and I did manage to take her out, so Rome has fallen, and from there she was happy to peace out and give me the settlement of Capua to end the war. But with that, I essentially now control the entire middle and south of our home continent, with Ada completely crippled, which is great timing as the barbarian crisis is just beginning to ramp up. I need to bring all my troops home to defend from absolute waves and waves of filthy barbarians rushing my pristine Mayan capital. It was about this time that I realized something pretty massive. I had never actually managed to secure 3 camels. All of the camels were basically locked up away in Xerxes' land. Now why do I need camels, you ask, apart from just being a really good resource? Well, you need 3 camels to unlock the Abbasid, who are far and away the best science civ in exploration, probably one of the best civs in the entire game, realistically. Unfortunately, there's really nothing I could do about this. I realized it way too late, so I figured my 3 wonder start was good enough, I should just play on without it. So instead we opted for Ming China. For what it's worth, the Ming are also an extremely powerful civ, but they're a lot more culture focused with their Great Wall. Probably the best improvement in the game because it can go absolutely everywhere. To this end, I opted to take Chalcedony Seal, which gives an extra 1 culture and 1 gold on all unique improvements, which is going to be amazing on all those great walls, although stay tuned, because you might have seen from the start, our empire is definitely going to be littered with 1 unique improvement everywhere, but it's not the Great Wall, it's something a little more scientific. And all of our science is going to be coming from that 1 improvement, but if you've made it this far, this is a great time before we start the next stage to point out that I'll be participating in the 2025 Civ Give on the 14th of December at 10 AM EST time. This is an annual event run by the Civ Show featuring all of your favourite Civ content creators, and Riddick Acidic will be there too. So if you've got a spare bit of coin, there's the QR code on screen to donate, or I've got a link in the description to donate there as well. All of the money is going towards the Gamers Outreach Foundation that provides support to very unwell kids in hospital. So it's a great cause. Thanks in advance for anyone who's able to donate. But now back to the video, let's get into the absolute meat and potatoes of this challenge, the Exploration Age. So did you manage to figure out which improvement I'll be spamming on every possible tile? That's right, it's the Monastery. The Monastery in Civ 7 is the unique improvement you can only get by befriending a scientific city-state in the Exploration Age. It provides a measly 4 science, and its only placement condition is that it can't be placed next to an urban district. These are isolationist monks, alright? They can't meditate if they hear someone getting tortured in a dungeon next door. They just can't do it. So they have to be out in the sticks of your cities, which can at times require some pretty unique city planning. The general gist was that I spent the first half of this age putting down as many great walls as I could to absolutely skyrocket my gold, and I spent the second half of the age replacing as many of them as I could with monasteries. There was one small problem with this plan though, and it turns out there were absolutely no scientific city-states on my continent, so I had to go searching. And did we find one? Well, eventually. Luckily, I just needed the 1 to kick things in motion, and kick we did. What happened after this moment was an absolute frenzy of settling every possible tile on the map. We were going to paint the world yellow. Every available tile was to have a monastery on it. Every monk was to have safe, secure, and affordable housing under Pachacuti's rule. No expense was spared, and this intertwined beautifully with the second part of our plan, spreading our religion. You see, going this far over the settlement cap means that we hit the unhappiness cap pretty quickly, and if you didn't know, for every settlement over the cap, all of your settlements lose 5 happiness, but this only stacks up to 7 times for a maximum happiness penalty of 35. However, if a settlement follows your religion, all of the monasteries in that settlement give +3 happiness. And in most cases, this was enough to completely mitigate the unhappiness penalty, ensuring that all of these monastery towns were pumping out as much food and science as possible. As the saying goes, a happy monk is a productive monk. And the final religious benefit that's going to tie this all together is our founder belief that we took, interfaith dialogue. This provides 4 science for every foreign settlement that follows my religion, and 1 science if it's in one of my own settlements. So the aim here was also to convert the entire world to Taoism. Now, unfortunately, I didn't have the foresight to name my religion something funny for this video, so you have to come up with a humorous name yourself. Sorry about that. Now, why did I torture myself by playing the extremely tedious and questionable religious game in Civ 7 when religion is even a thing in the modern age? Well, you actually can keep your religion in the modern age, sort of. If I take the cultural golden age, I can carry my founder belief over into faith dialogue, so all of those converted settlements will continue to give me 4 science each in the modern age, as long as they're still following my religion on the last turn. So yeah, that's basically the strategy for exploration. If you want to lose about 10 hours of your life, you can go watch this play out live on the stream recordings. It's a solid half day's work of settling towns, growing towns, purchasing monasteries, and moving missionaries. Oh, but I did manage to unlock the 3rd religious belief somehow, something I've never experienced in my 600 hours of Civ 7, and I've not done since either, so that was fun. But anyway, that's the exploration age done really. Turn 130. Looking at our yields here, we're pulling in just under 4,000 gold, 3,000 science, 2,600 culture, and well over 1,000 happiness while at 37 out of 17 settlements. So don't let anyone tell you that Civ 7 punishes you for doing well and settling everywhere. If you have a decent knowledge of the game, there are plenty of ways to mitigate the penalties. And I will say that overall, although min-maxing to this degree is a bit tedious, this was a very unique playstyle and one that I've never really gotten from a Civ game before. And this is why I never quite understand the complaint that Civ 7 railroads you into one playstyle or that every game feels the same, because here I am going for a science victory by mass settling towns and completely avoiding specializing them and stacking specialists. I'm way over the settlement cap and leaning heavily into religion and rural improvements to make up the bulk of my science output. You don't have to just do the science legacy path and focus on specialists every game. So get creative, people. In many ways, Civ 7 has the most freedom of any game in the series, with all of the unique combinations that you can mix and match across the ages. The game's not going to hand feed you cool strategies, alright? You got to use the old noggin to think them up yourself. But I digress. You'll also notice the time in the top right there. This is one more turn syndrome at its finest, really. But thank you to everyone in the stream chat pushing me on and encouraging me to stay up well into the morning, much to the dismay of Mrs. Daily Civ 7 News. But what can you do? Let's take a look at the modern age. This is what it's all been building up to. And in terms of our mementos, if I had Note G unlocked, this is where I'd absolutely be taking it. Unfortunately, I didn't, so I had to raw dog all of these projects with Pachacuti's production from food ability. So we stuck with Chalcedony Seal, and of course, we took our military point here like an absolute chump. It turns out I didn't even need to take this, by the way, but this is a good time to let you know that I finished like 13 future techs and civics, I think, and all I needed was one of those random leader points to go to military so that I would get one free level on all of my commanders for the stacking 5% yields to my capital. But I didn't get a single one. Super unlucky. But yeah, it turns out Oxford University gives a wildcard point, so I could have taken a better memento. Oh well. Alright, the modern age. This is where things get a little bit technical, so let's pick Meiji Japan and talk a bit about science overflow and zero turning techs. Now when a new age in Civ 7 starts, it technically begins on turn 0, and then the first playable turn is turn 1, which means that when the age does start, you have already gained one turn of gold, science, culture, and influence, which is why, for example, I've got 4,865 gold, because you can carry over 3k gold into the modern age, and then I've gained 1,865, going from turn 0 to turn 1 from my gold per turn. What this means for us in a science game is that I've already gained 1,648 science, and because I also got at least 3 future techs in the previous age, you can see these first 3 techs in the modern age already half researched. What this means is that I essentially have already got enough science carried over to instantly research this technology if I had queued it up. But because it's turn 1, I haven't had a chance to actually put that science towards the tech yet. Now, Japan's ability gives you a burst of science mid-turn whenever you overbuild a building. And when you get science mid-turn, any science that you had overflowed or banked up gets applied to the tech that you are currently researching. What this means is that you can research more than one tech per turn if your science is high enough. So in practical terms, all this means is that if a tech is showing a 0 turns in the tech tree, you can click to research that and then instantly get it when you overbuild as Japan. So that's how we're able to research 14 technologies in less than 14 turns. Hopefully that made sense, but basically more science equals good. Other things happening on turn 1 is turning all of the settlements that are connected to my capital into farming towns. This is to give my capital as much food as possible, because Pachacuti turns 10% of your food income into production, and production is basically the second most important yield for a science victory. For the few cities that aren't connected, I make these into urban centers in case I run out of things to overbuild in my 3 main cities, just making sure I always have a burst of science ready to go if I need it. And look, to be honest, the modern age is actually pretty straightforward once you get to this point. If you didn't know, you win a science victory in Civ 7 by getting to just about the end of the tech tree and completing 4 big projects that are huge production gates. Once you complete the 4th one and send humans to space, you win the game. Another aspect giving me a huge amount of production at this point is, of course, my mine quarters from the Antiquity Age. So every time I finish a tech or tech mastery, my cities that have that quarter get 5% of the cost of that tech as production, which is pretty huge in modern. The techs cost a few thousand science here, so you get hundreds of production from that mine quarter. Really strong stuff. So yeah, there's not much more to it really. After all this, here I am launching our crewed spaceflight and winning the game after just 15 turns in the modern age. How's that? The current best. Turn 15. That's pretty good. And then something terrible happened. Paisley Trees beat me the very next day by 1 turn.
We beat Daily by 1 turn. Now we can celebrate.
And I wasn't having that, obviously, so I ran it back on the same save and tied it at 14 turns. And then Shamal managed to get it down to 9 turns, playing as Tonga instead of Maya. So I went ahead and did that too, by just doing everything we did before, but better, and with more settlements. And yes, I went back to Queen of War. She is so much better than Pachacuti for this if you're thinking of having a crack yourself. So yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoyed, but let me know your thoughts on this run. I will say that the level of micro required to get this much ageless science is absolutely insane. I am genuinely never doing this challenge again, unless someone beats this record, of course, then I'll probably get straight back in the saddle. But who knows what balance changes they'll make to Civ 7 that'll mix up this run. We used to have it a lot easier when city-states used to give 1 free tech every time you befriended another city-state. That has been removed, so the run is a lot harder than it was pre-city-state nerf. But it may also get easier, it may get harder, we don't know. Either way, we can safely say that a sub-10 science victory is very possible right now. So don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you want to see more Civ 7 content like this. If you have any, let me know your thoughts down below, and don't forget to donate to the Civ Give 2025 if you can, or tune into the big match at 10 AM EST time on the 14th of December. Don't even ask me what time that is in Australia, but yeah, it's going to go absolutely nuclear, hopefully not literally. And finally, a shout out to all the channel members who support me on YouTube. That is Chris J, In Paladin, Shamal TV, Nyana, Awesome Daisy, and Chase Bandy. Thank you for all your support, it is extremely generous. That's all I've got for you today. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Have a good one.